StarNet, just to remind you, StarNet now has StarNet Region 6 has a YouTube channel, and all the presentations that we do as staff people, we will put up on that YouTube channel. We can't give you credit, but if you miss something or you want more information, or if you're an administrator and you can give your staff credit, like maybe they watch it and then they have to do some kind of homework, it is up there, and they are up there indefinitely. So let me get started since we just have a quick hour together. Okay. All right. So we talked about adaptations in our last presentation, and I touched on embedded instruction. And I just went to the DEC conference. I don't know if anyone else got to go last week. And I actually went to a really good session on embedded instruction. So I embedded some of that into here. But before we get started on that, I just want to, we ended kind of with an action plan. If you could chat, or I am fine, we are a small group. If someone would like to share, you can unmute or just put it in the chat box, a successful adaptation you met since you did with a child since we last met. So I talked about all the different types of adaptations that we can do, environmental, child preference, adult support, materials adaptation. So go ahead and let me know an adaptation that you did using an outside choice board. You guys liked that. Good. Glad to see that helped. What else did you do? The hula hoop. And that was a suggestion from someone in the group, so thank you. Prompting peers to help. Great. Added visuals to a verbal prompt with good results. Perfect. Tried the cube chair. Wonderful. Individual schedule. Brittany, you can't hear. I suggest that you sign out. Oh, you can't hear. Mare, could you chat to Brittany and tell her to sign out and sign back in? Okay, individual schedules. Good. All right, I'm glad to see that you applied some new adaptations, and I hope that you found that they were successful. Okay, so as I said, today we're going to focus on embedded instruction, which is just another explicit child-focused instructional strategy that you can use. So embedded instruction, if you remember those building blocks, that's kind of our next step up. So I tried adaptations. There's about 6 to 8 different types of adaptations, and I just feel like the child still needs a little bit more individualized attention, or that I need to focus more on a specific objective to see if that child really is making progress. You can implement this more focused type of adaptation to make sure that you're covering specific objectives that a child, goals and objectives that a child has to make. Or you could do this like if you're doing GOLD, for example, GOLD assessment, and you don't feel a child's kind of at an in-between level and you want to make sure you can shift that child up, you could try some embedded instruction and see if by giving this focused attention to the child that maybe you can see some progress. And again, I just want to, it's my little thing now since I've been doing this webinar, just remembering, and you'll hear it again, but changing what the child is learning is a modification. So if I'm in your blended classroom and I don't have the same goals that the other children have or same objectives, that's a modification, okay? But changing how I learn the same thing as the other children is just an adaptation or an accommodation. Again, those two words are interchanged. Okay, so what is embedded instruction? Just the definition of embedded instruction is it involves multiple brief teaching interactions between the teacher and the child, and that's really important. You can't just set it up. You're going to set it up, you're going to get the child to do what you want in a natural way, and then you have to respond when the child does that, okay? And again, the clue here is these are brief interactions. So I know you have 20 children, some of you in your classroom. I'm not asking you to spend the whole time. I'm asking you to spend these short little episodes. And it doesn't just need to be you. Absolutely, if you spend time with your teaching assistant, they can be doing these embedded instructions also. Embedded instructions also focuses on targeted, selected classroom activities. So remember, when we put children, when we're blending children into our regular classrooms, we want them to be successful and to be able to function in the classroom. So something that I might want to embed or target is an area that they might be having difficulty with. So maybe I'm not doing such a hot job playing and interacting with my peers during centers, okay? You're going to set up a specific interaction to help me build that, okay, and to do some modeling. Again, it's planned, it's intentional, and there's instructional strategies that can help the students. And the most important thing is why this doesn't, besides the planning, it's no extra because it happens while the kids are playing, or it happens during the normal routines of the classroom, and we're just giving children more opportunities to practice it. But let's step back for a moment and remember, I want to read this. This was one thing that I got from the conference. How do young children learn? We know this, but let's remember it, okay? We know that they learn best during normal, everyday routines, and those activities are with people and the things that they're most familiar with. And the reason is because they feel safe and they can be engaged, okay? So I know no one's doing this anymore, but 24 years ago when I started with StarNet, I did see some like related specialists or even teachers having the assistant pull a child to the hallway to go through some stuff. No, let's see if they know their numbers by, right, in like doing one-to-one correspondence while I'm playing in the block center and I made a house and there's one person in one bed, one person, one bed, okay? We know we can do it in a natural way. So it's important to spend the most time with the child. This means it's important for the people who spend the most time with the child to learn how to embed intervention into a child's everyday routines and activities. And I just added this slide because, again, it's nothing new, okay? It's nothing added onto the day. You're already doing this. You're just going to be intentional and it's going to be planned. So perfect segue here. We have intentional teaching that we've talked a lot about since we've started using centers, right? We can't just set up the centers and expect children to play and to meet the objectives that we want them to. We want children to progress while they're playing. So we have to be intentional with that. And when we're intentional, we're clarifying the defined learning activities. We have in our mind what we want children to learn while they're playing in blocks. Or like my son Aaron that went to blocks for 3 years he went to the block room for 3 years of preschool, then I better bring things to Aaron so he can start showing me what he can learn. So I have these clearly defined objectives. When I'm doing embedded instruction, that's the what am I going to teach, okay? When I have intentional teaching, it's play-based or activity-based, right? With embedded instruction, that's the where and when to teach it, okay? So I'm going to pick the best routine or activity or best part of day that this child can naturally demonstrate knowledge to me. When I'm doing instructional teaching, I have instructional strategies likely to help the child achieve objectives, okay? So those are a lot of the adaptations that we've been talking about. But when I'm doing embedded instruction, that's the how am I going to teach it? I'm really planning out, very structured, this little interaction I'm going to have with a child. With intentional teaching, to make sure it's happening, I have to be continually assess and progress and adjust. So that's my teaching cycle, right? You know, I observe, I document, I look at how things are, I assess, and then I might need to change things around to see if the child can demonstrate knowledge. So that's the same with embedded instruction. So you can see that intentional teaching and embedded instruction really are the same thing. Embedded instruction just is a little bit more specific. So why are we going to use embedded instruction? Familiar adult, it's very easy to learn to do. It can be used anywhere. So I can teach parents how to do this. I could teach if the child spends half day with you and half day at a child care. I could teach the workers there to do it. The big thing about this is I'm going to focus in on the child's interest and strengths. I'm following the child's lead, okay? So if it was Aaron and I wanted to do embedded instruction, I would not ask Aaron to go to the art center that day. I would follow Aaron into the block room and I would embed my instruction there. When I use embedded instruction, I have meaningful and functional opportunities for children to build their skills, right? And it's all about that functional. We want all of our kids to be successful in the classroom. We want them to be part of the classroom. I'm repeating myself, but again, it's during regular routines and activities that occur naturally during the day. So I want you really to focus on that routines, right? Because I think naturally, a lot of us will think, okay, I can do this during center time, but there might be a better opportunity to do this. Somebody needs to mute their microphone, please. So for example, if a child has maybe a feeding objective they need to work on, well, the best time to do that would be during snack time, or, you know, if I'm in an all-day Head Start during meal time. So I just want you to look at the routines also. And the other reason that embedded instruction is so important is it allows children repeated opportunities to maintain their skills, right? Because this is a routine or an activity they're doing all the time. So they get repeated opportunities to do the skill that we want them to learn. Okay, so how do we do this? And going back to that embedded learning, the intentional teaching. So the first step is you have to think about what's the skill that I want to teach the child. Okay, so think about, as I'm going through this, think about a child that you're a little frustrated with or struggling with, or you tried one of the adaptations we talked about before, you really didn't see any improvement. So think about, what is it that you want to teach that child? What skill is that child lacking? And then after that, start to think in what activities, routines, or transition time is it most logical and appropriate to teach this skill? So now we're talking about when we're going to teach that skill. Okay? And then step 3 is really setting up the scenario. What procedures am I going to use? How am I going to teach this skill? And then step 4 is, how are you going to monitor that the teaching is implemented as planned and that the embedded instruction is really making a difference? The thing that I want to say is, while it happens naturally, it really does take some specific planning. Who's ever going to be implementing it, or if you're working with your assistant, sitting down and explaining, this is what I want you to do, this is the reaction we're looking from the child, this is how I want you to respond. So I wasn't going to do this quite yet, but just, does anybody want to share a child that they're thinking of right now? Would someone like to unmute and share a child that they're struggling with a little bit?
I do.
Okay.
I have a little girl named Ava.
Okay.
When she comes in, she doesn't follow regular routine. And I have tried to redirect her and direct her, but she won't comply. First thing she does is she goes to the table toys and she pulls out table toys and starts playing with them. She won't eat breakfast. She just plays and plays, and she won't eat lunch. And then she goes and takes a nap. And then when she gets up, she wants to eat snack, but she won't eat anything else but that. And I can't get her to come with, the group, she won't, she just won't come. And when she's talking, she's kind of talking to herself. She's not really directing any of her talking to any of the kids or myself. So.
Okay, so this is a good example. And the reason I want to say it's a good example, but we need to hone in because you're struggling with her all day, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to pick and you started with like the morning routine. Mm-hmm. So if I was going to embed instruction, I would start with, can we get her focused and to learn the morning routine? Mm-hmm. So is the morning routine, I'm going to just make it up. You come in, you hang up your backpack, you take out any notes, and you go to circle. What do you do after you hang up everything?
We hang up, we do a greeting, and then we come in and immediately this breakfast is.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to think, what do I want to teach? I want to teach her the morning routine, which is say 4 steps. Okay. We know when we want to teach it. We want to teach it the minute she's dropped off. Mm-hmm. Okay. Before she even gets into the school. So how am I going to teach it? So this is where you would decide, is she dropped off by her parents or does she get off a bus?
She dropped off by her mom.
Okay, so her mother drops her off. Maybe your teaching assistant meets her and you have an individual schedule for her and it's on Velcro pieces. So right away, we might open up this little folder we're making for her and we say, Ava, when you get into the room, the first thing you're going to do is hang up your backpack. Mm-hmm. And maybe the exact thing is we're going to have her repeat it to us. And as we walk in the room and we know she wants to go to the toys, we're going to hand her the picture of hang up the backpack. Okay. And after she hangs up the backpack, she puts that in a basket. And then we say, what's the next thing you're going to do, Ava? So we're going to keep redirecting her. Mm-hmm. So do you see, it's very specific. It's 4 things she's going to rip off that picture, and we're not going to let her get over. We're going to have the next picture ready for her. And
so it's just like using the PECs.
Exactly. I mean, and this is just something I'm rolling off the top of my head. But I think we have to get her thinking of the routine before maybe she comes into the class and she just sees this big open space. Mm-hmm. And at home, I'm allowed to play and eat when I want. Maybe there's not a whole lot of structure at home.
Right.
So maybe by giving her some structure, and if we can get her to do that morning routine for a while, and don't take away those pictures. Maybe she needs those pictures just like I need my list. Like this morning when I sat down for work, I had to open up my book and say, what am I supposed to be doing today? So don't take away those pictures when she starts to do well. Mm-hmm. Okay? She'll fade them away when she doesn't need them. Okay. And then we want to evaluate. That's how we evaluate it. When we start seeing Ava independently ripping off those pictures and doing the morning routine, we know that embedded instruction worked.
Okay. And
then maybe I can move on to the next area that she's, Mm-hmm. So do you see how it's very, very specific? Mm-hmm. So that's just one example. So Crystal, you said you have a student who just started ADH meds. It's been really challenging as sometimes things work, but other times don't. Well, the first thing is when you say she just started the medicine, maybe we need to, I don't know, some of the medicines work right away now. Maybe she needs some time for the medicine to adjust. The other thing that happens sometimes with parents is sometimes the parents think that the children can go off the medicine on the weekend, that they only need it for school. So then come Monday, I'm readjusting. So hopefully she can start taking the medicine more consistently, and maybe you will find her adjusting better to the classroom. So I hope that we can talk more about that later, Crystal. But do you guys see the real specific, and when we're talking about embedded instruction, the reason I liked that example was she really is having difficulties all day long with this girl. But we have to pick a specific time, routine, and then a specific exchange we're going to have with that child. And I have some other examples.
Okay.
So so I hope that that helped you.
It does.
Good,
It
good.
helps. Mhm.
Okay. And at the end, again, I'm going to share my email and phone number. So I'm happy to, continue any discussions that anything you guys might be trying. I think I shared this before, but this again is from the ECTA Center, the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center. And they have this checklist. I'm not saying you need to follow it exactly, but I like what they're saying, okay? And this goes around also kind of what Lottie was saying, right? Identify the target skill and function behavior. This embedded instruction is really specific, okay? So even if I'm thinking about a child that is in my PFA program, it's not a blended child, but he just doesn't seem to be progressing with an objective, okay? What is that specific objective? And then again, I'm going to look at my everyday routine. When's the best time to do this with the child? So when I say, yes, a lot of this is going to be done during centers, but again, if it's something physical or motor, it might be a better time to do it when we're outside at recess. Maybe that's a better time to have a specific intervention embedded. Again, number 3, you're providing multiple opportunities, okay? Just like with the adaptations that we talked about, this isn't going to happen in 2 days. It takes multiple opportunities. It's going to take multiple times of you catching her the minute she gets out of the car and giving her, okay, we're going to the classroom. What are we going to do? We're going to hang up your backpack. Here's your backpack. We're going to hang up your backpack. We're going to take it off and put it on the hook. So it's multiple opportunities of getting the child to learn this instruction, okay? And then we're using the prompts and visuals, right? We're getting it off your back. We're putting it on the hook. We're showing them what we want them to do. And then you provide context-specific natural consequences, so reinforcing the child. And then give the child feedback, right? Ava, you just did the morning routine. Now we're all going to go whatever. All right, so I like this. It's kind of 5 easy steps to make sure that you're following this, because this embedded instruction is really specific. I guess that's my point to this. And let me just put in the, this ecta.org has wonderful resources, lots of checklists that are aligned with our DEC recommended practices. They have short video segments that you can use to try to understand different things. Very good website. Okay, where do I start with? Any questions? All right, so we've gone into this a little, but where do I start? The planning is so important. You can't do this on the fly. So I'm not telling you to do embedded instruction with 20 kids, right? I'm telling you to think about that child that's either frustrating you or, you're just like, I have tried everything with this child. So really, you have to think, what skill is this child lacking? Why, what can I give them so they can participate more? I'm going to look at my schedule and I'm really going to say, what is the best time that I could embed this targeted behavior that I'm looking for? The most natural time. I'm going to arrange the environment to make sure the child is engaged in the selected activity. So again, I'm going to go back to Aaron. If it was a one-to-one correspondence, I'm going to make sure I'm going to have set up that environment that I know there's 8 little figure people and 8 rectangle blocks, so he can demonstrate that he can do one-to-one correspondence up to 8, for example. Okay, I've set up the environment. I'm going to provide that assistance to make sure the child has success. Okay, so I'm going to be ripping off the picture. I'm going to be taking her backpack off and hanging it up the first day. I'm going to put the picture in the all done basket so they have success and they know what we're looking for. And as always, I'm going to provide targeted feedback, positive feedback for the child. So again, when I'm deciding what is it that I want to teach, what is it that you want that child to be able to do? What can't that child do? And when we think about centers, right, Who can somebody give me an example of a child that just isn't quite doing centers the way they should? What are they doing? Can either chat or unmute.
I have a child that won't even go into the center area.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so do they choose where they want to go? Can everybody just go where they want, or
Yes, they get
he
to
won't leave
choose.
circle? Like,
He'll just cry and sit on the couch. I probably should have presented him first. He'll just cry and sit on the couch and
okay,
just refuse to even play with any toys. We've showed him pictures of him playing with the toys. We created like a social story, but he still just refuses.
okay. So we have a refuser, and then we have Sherry. You have the one that goes from center to center and really never gets engaged, right? So the first thing is with our little boy that won't go in is we want him to participate. That's kind of the activity. We want him to participate in centers. So, maybe we start with something that we know this child loves. So maybe we need to have mom send in, I'm so out of touch, I don't know, like the latest shows that kids watch anymore. Something that
Paw
kid
Patrol.
loves. Paw Patrol. I know that one. Okay. He brings in something from Paw Patrol. And in Block Center, because we have seen him building, even if it's not in Block Center, we've hidden 3 little Paw Patrol things. And we say to him, I need your help today. I need you to come to the Block Center with me. And can you be a detective? And again, I'm talking off of the top of my head. But do you see what I'm saying? I'm taking a child interest and I've picked the center because I don't know this kid. Maybe it's too much. Maybe he doesn't know how to make choices. Maybe it's the transition. We don't know quite yet. But if we could get something we know we like, and then we've hidden or embedded that in a center we're going to start with, maybe we can get him into a center and we can engage him in some play. With our child that's going from center to center, maybe whatever center, who was that? Sherry, does that child pick the same center to start at every day? No. Okay. So, I would walk to whatever center that child goes to first and have, it's hard if they don't. So maybe you direct the child to a center. So you say to your assistant, I want you to be in dramatic play as soon as the kids start centers, and I'm going to bring Aaron over to dramatic play. And can you engage him and pretend you're baking a cake for my birthday or whatever? So you have your role, the assistant has her role, and we're going to engage him for a while. Are we going to force him to stay? No, but usually our wanderer just does not know how to play or doesn't know how to join a group is the other skill that they can be working on. Okay, so those are some example of that's what I want the kid. I want to get the kid to a center. I want to engage the child in a center so maybe they don't wander. Is this something the whole class is working on or child specific? So you might have a couple wanderers, right? Somebody else has, I'm going to get to the crier with my next example. So we're talking more about centers, but after we know what to teach, then we're going to, again, look at that when to teach. When is the most ideal time? Now, I keep talking about centers. Depending on the child, the 2 examples we had now, yes, it's the beginning of centers, right? Because I have to work to get that one kid in centers, and I'm going to work also to get the other child to engage. So I have to initially engage that child. The child that wants all the toys and has crying fits, maybe that child goes to a specific center, and I've now put in, I'm a big block person, block center. I keep giving examples, but say they're fighting over the fire truck. I now have 3 little Matchbox fire trucks in there. And I'm going to demonstrate to that child how he can play with it for a while and then give it to somebody else, or how he can play with his friends. And they all, aren't they lucky? They all have this toy right now. Okay? And then maybe I take that child to another center and I have to work with him when he doesn't have the toy that he wants. So sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But that's a child that probably has not, we don't think about this a lot, but the kid that is having a hard time sharing and wants everything to themselves, are they an only child? Are they the oldest and there's a baby? Are they from a family of 8 and they're always fighting for things? Like, not in a bad way, but you have to fend for yourself when you come from a large family. So sometimes we have to look at the family dynamics and think, what is the kid coming to school with? Okay, so again, I'm going to specifically look at the different activities, the time, and when would be the most natural time to embed this and to model. That modeling is really, really important. So I want to show you, let me stop this. I want to share a really good form. Wait a minute. I can't multitask, as my children say. Okay, desktop. Some people like forms, some people don't. So I will put this in the chat now, and you're more than welcome to use it. If we have time, we are going to use it at the very end. But the reason I like this form, and I did get this from the conference I just went to, is it really makes you do that specific planning I want you to do, okay? So what is that routine that we're gonna work on, and what is the specific goal, okay? And then what are we going to do? You're going to write it out. You've got to be specific. You have to know, you're going to catch her the minute mom drops her off. You're going to walk down the hall. What are you going to say? Giving the specific lines that they're going to say. And this is the key. This is why I like this form. How will you respond? Okay? So if the child starts crying because they don't get their toy, what's the intervention? How is the teacher going to respond to redirect to the child? And then really looking at what are the materials that you need. And this just is a way for you to see how many opportunities during each day do you have to work on this objective, okay? So for example, for the little wanderer, you're gonna have every day during center maybe 3 times, because you're going to follow that child into 3 different centers. Or maybe you're overwhelmed and you're just going to follow the child into 1 center, so it's 1 time a day, okay? But maybe this is more of a routine thing that the child runs down the hall all the time, okay? So then you would have the opportunity in the morning when you pick up the kid from the bus. You'd have the opportunity when you go outside. You'd have the opportunity when you take the child home, back to the bus. So there'd be 3 times a day that you could work on that. So I posted that in the chat, and I just wanted to share it. If you like forms, use it. But the most important thing is that I want you to know is that you really need to, answer these questions. You have to have planned out what you're going to do, what you're going to say, how you're going to respond, and what do you need. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so then how am I going to teach this? How am I specifically going to get my objective? Remember the 3 parts. What do you say or do? How do you want the kid to respond? And then how will you respond? Okay, so let me see, was there a, okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about my crier, okay? So what do you say? Okay, it's your turn to play with the fire truck now, but in a minute, and maybe I have a sand timer or a time timer, we're going to give Aaron a turn to play with the fire truck. and you can play with, so I have another toy that I know that kid likes, all right? And then if the child says no, or how are you going to respond? Or if the child does what you want, the child says, okay, the timer's over, I'll give it to him. How are you going to respond? Well, of course, you're going to respond with some clear positive reinforcement, okay? Now, I know you're probably thinking, that's way too easy. It's not that it's easy, and I'm not saying he's going to do it, but you're going to try this multiple times, okay? Because we're teaching this child how to share. That's what we're doing. So that's how I'm going to teach it. So I know what I'm going to teach. I know how I'm going to teach it, and I'm going to really have it planned out. I'm going to have all the materials ready. You can't say I'm going to do embedded instruction and centers has started and say, oh, goodness, I was supposed to put 3 Paw Patrols hidden in the refrigerator at dramatic play, okay? This has to be all set up before the routine or the activity begins. And then this is really, really important. You can't do steps 1, 2, and 3. You have to evaluate, okay? Just like you do for any other thing that you try in your classroom, you've got to collect some kind of data on this and see if it's working. So you have that little sheet with the, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You could put down some documentation. If you're only looking for it to happen one time during the day, you're going to jot down some notes. So today is only Monday. Tuesday, Lottie's going to make that little file folder thing. Wednesday, she's going to be ready to do it, okay? So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, she could get some documentation. It's only during the morning routine, and maybe the documentation is Ava didn't pay attention at all to the file folder. But maybe on Friday, Ava ripped off the backpack picture and hung up her backpack. Okay, so because there are multiple steps to that one, for example. So that's how we can measure success. And Lottie, I'll keep using your example because it's a good one. You do not want to move on to another part of a day that she's not following the routine until we have the morning routine down. Because when she's got that morning routine down, she's going to start to she's going to know what that file folder is. She's going to understand ripping off the pictures. So that's an example of how we can measure success. And if you see that child really generalizing the skill, okay, then you know that they've mastered it. Again, how do I know that it's working? The child stays engaged in classroom activities. So let's go back to our wanderer that goes in and out of activities. You've worked for a while now to engage him, for example, in the block center. You see that you can now leave after a couple minutes. He can engage with his peers, and you're going to time. Maybe it's not 20 minutes that he's staying in a center. Maybe now he stays in a center for 3 minutes. Well, 3 minutes is a lot more than going in and out of a center. So now maybe you pick another center and you've planned something for him in art. You're going to bring him over to art and demonstrate something that he likes and how he can play with collage material, for example. Many, many times that wanderer does not know how to get started, does not know how to interact, to join a group. So I'm a speech pathologist. Kids sometimes just don't have that language, or I'm dreadfully shy, so I don't know how to say, can I play? Or here's another block. Okay, so that's that little script that you're going to have develop. And then finally, children are more independent and they're participating in different classroom activities. That's how you know this embedded instruction has worked. And you can easily see that, right? So I'm going to show an example now. Any questions before I show the video? You guys are very quiet. This is supposed to be you participating, asking questions if you like. Okay, let me. Okay. Marianne, can you hear this?
to see Jacob's trees? Look, Jacob. Look, the trees kind of look like the broccoli that we eat. When we have broccoli for lunch. Do you like broccoli?
Yeah.
Yeah. What color is broccoli? Green.
Let's see. Is the water warm? Yeah. And is this warm or cold? Cold. Cold. Let's see what happens when I pour some warm water on the cold ice.
What color is the water turning?
I might need some.
Yeah, water's only.
Cinderella! What's happening?
You know how to do an N? N is in your name, isn't it? And another letter in your name, E. Good job. Okay, so June. So what is your birthday?
June the 1st.
June the 1st. Can you write a 1? Ah, there's your birthday.
Okay, look at that.
This is the best example.
Look at that. God, yeah, you're starting at the top. Very nice. Oops, I'm sorry. Look, Adele, you did it right, like this. I want to find your name card so you can see how well you did it. Every letter. That was great, Isabella. H-I-J. Okay. You can say it in your mind, like that little song you were singing. H-I-J-K. Which one is K? I see it in front of you. I see it somewhere in this row. I see it in this row. There it is.
Okay.
I'm just like you. I teach 6th grade science, and if you're anything like me, you've wasted your playing time trying to find a video for one of your lessons.
Okay. So just in that, I liked when the little boy that was writing letters, there were several things that it was planned, okay? So he was on like a slanted easel, which was probably easier for him than just on flat ground. They had visuals. I don't know if that was the teacher. The assistant was, you know, said you're going to do one letter at a time, and then she flipped it. She showed him what he did. And then that little girl that was writing, maybe she was very into writing, okay? And they wanted to see if she was able to write her name by herself now, okay? Maybe developmentally, she was writing all the letters in her name. The little girl that was identifying letters, okay, so that's an objective in gold, for example, when we want to see how many letters. So they made it into a game that was probably out in centers. And there were some specific strategies the teacher was using to help her demonstrate the knowledge of her letter identification. So again, all very natural. Nobody was being pulled separately. It was activities that they were doing during centers. Any questions? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we have about 15 minutes left. And what I want to do is I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Marianne, how many people are on?
26.
26. Okay, I'm going to set up, first I want to show you this slide and I'll stop sharing. I want you to kind of do what we did. Choose a child that someone is having some, I don't want to say issues with, some concerns with. Choose a skill that you want to improve, but I want to know what's that objective that you're going to work with on, okay? And then try to come up with a plan, okay? Where can you embed this intervention and this objective to help this child? Okay, so So let me stop sharing, and I'm going to send you to breakout rooms. How many people are in?
26.
26. So let's do 6 rooms. And we're going to go for, let's go for 6 minutes, okay? See how much you can problem solve together. Let me pause the recording. Okay, everybody should be coming back. I don't like it. Breakout rooms stop, but then you still get 60 seconds. All right, so I know that that probably was not, where is everybody? Come on back. All right, there we go. Now everyone's back. All right, welcome back. I know that probably wasn't enough time to fully make a plan, but I hope that you did have time to discuss and sort of, you know, discuss what I've been talking about for the time. But again, just to review, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? How will you respond? And really, I didn't touch on this enough. You've got to have those materials ready, okay? You can't be grabbing for the materials as the routine or the activity has started. So we have about 6 minutes left. Does one group want to share maybe the plan that they had? Anybody want to share?
In here. Oh, unmute. Okay. Hi. We were team 3. And if it's okay with team 3.
Okay.
You know, we talked about Ava. Okay.
Okay.
So I think we were all on the same page that we really need to talk with mom. Okay. Because we just found out that there's a younger sibling. Also, there was an older sibling that kind of did some of the same behavior. And so Ava probably, you know, mom says she eats. Well, you know, she probably lets her walk and eat. She doesn't probably have Ava, she has to sit down to the table, okay, and to have her breakfast. So some of the things that they shared with us, you know, about Ava is that it starts at home. And so if home is not on the same page that we're on, it's not going to be effective because this kid spends more time with their parent than they do with us.
Right. But
so that's kind of like where we're at. It's like, you know, to have a conversation with mom. Pardon?
Oh, this is perfect. Thank you. Two good points that you made. One, before you even pick that, well, when you pick that goal or that objective, that skill that you want to work on in class, yes, you do need some background information. So that was like a major thing, right? If this is what's happening at home, this is a brand new skill that I might be teaching Ava, that she, you know, isn't expected to sit down and follow a routine or sit down and eat. So the eating is like a separate thing, right? We have her, she's not following routines, and then she doesn't always eat also, which might be a separate objective. So if I'm moving now to focusing on the eating, right, I want to share with mom, this is what these are the expectations in the class, and this is what we're working on. Maybe, remember how I said, this embedded instruction works with any familiar adult person to the child. So I could share specifically or make a copy for mom, you know, for mom to do this at home. I know that life might be hectic and that sometimes we have to eat and run, but we're working on this at school. maybe you could work on this at home, and that will make it easier for Ava to learn and to understand. So that was a good point that you brought up. So thank you for sharing that. But again, I want you to remember, when you do this embedded intervention, you got to pick one skill that you're working on. So with Ava, we got to be careful because we have that we want her to follow routines, but another big thing is the getting her to sit down and eat. So there's two things really that we're going to focus on with her. So just to be fair, so I stick to my 1 hour. We're really at the end. I would like you all in chat, because I like to kind of summarize, take a minute to think about what we talked about, okay? I talked about the 4 steps of embedded instruction. I talked about how children learn best. I talked about how embedded instruction is very much intentional teaching. Go ahead in the chat and just type where are you going to start with this, okay? What are you going to do tomorrow? Are you going to share this idea with somebody? Is there a child you're going to sit down and start to think about and plan an embedded intervention? Have you kind of been doing this already, and maybe there's a part you're going to tweak? So go ahead, if everybody could just type in the chat, and the more of you that participate, the better. Share the form with the team. Great. Glad you liked the form. Share with the co-teacher. Perfect, Brittany. Right. You don't need to do this alone. Share an idea from the breakout group. Good. I'll share the form with the team ASAP. Okay, you're going to share just about embedded instruction. Good. Get your para involved. Plan an embedded intervention for a student to help with routines. Okay. Share with your team. All right, great. I hope that you guys I hope you found this webinar helpful. Mary Ann, and yes, everything that you're saying are the first steps, right? Use that form if you feel that it's helpful. Please share this with the team members, right? I keep talking about the paraprofessionals, but share this with your related service staff that comes in your room, right? If you have a speech pathologist, maybe you could plan a specific intervention for when they come in. So thank you very much. I hope you feel that this was helpful. I'm going to put, I can't talk and type the same thing. I'm going to put my email and phone number. I'm happy to problem solve if you do this and you have some questions. I'm also going to put the title of the book, Building Blocks, that I used for a lot of this. And if you just Google embedded intervention in early childhood, there's a lot of resources out there. There's good videos, there's papers, there's some articles. So Marianne put up the link. Go ahead and click on the evaluation link. Again, thank you very much.
Don't forget the winner.
Oh my goodness. And we have a lucky raffle winner. Maureen Rogue.
ROGGE.
You are the lucky winner of a Karis kit. If you remember, I talked about Karis kit in the last, in the first presentation. So Marianne will be mailing you that book. So thank you
so much.
You're welcome.
I will share it.
Thanks for participating. Hope you found this helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay, I will put my...
And just a reminder, you must fill out the evaluation so you can get your certificate.
Oops, I always do that. I don't capitalize the agent handler.
That's all right. They know who you are.
Yes. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. This was nice. Have a good one.
Thank you, Penny.
Good night.
Mary, you can go.
Okay.
All right.
I'll see you.
I'll see you Friday.
Yep. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm going to sign off unless you guys have questions. You can fill out the vow and not be on Zoom. So have a nice night.
Is
Thank
the
you.
eval on Zoom?
Marianne put the link. Do you see it if you open your chat?
Okay.
Click on it. It says Survey Not Monkey.
It's open. Uh-oh.
Do you see it? Or you're still trying to get it?
No, I don't. And you know what? I have, let me see. Okay, there you are. You're back. Okay. No, I don't see it.
Okay, I'm going to copy it. You have your chat open.
It's open, yes.
Okay, 1 second. Let me copy it.
Oh,
Okay,
here's
you
the
see it now?
link. Okay. Let's see if it's coming up. Okay, survey monkey.
Survey Monkey,
Okay,
yeah.
thank
Click
you.
on that. Okay, thanks. All right, everybody else good?
But thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was very good.
Okay, have a nice night. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.